Nikki Haley is making her plea to South Carolina voters ahead of Saturday's GOP primary. The latest polling from CBS News shows Trump with a double-digit lead in the former governor's home state. Today, Trump is participating in a televised town hall event there in the Palmetto State. CBS News campaign reporter Taurean Small is in South Carolina, where he's been speaking with voters ahead of the Trump event. Taurean, it seems like Nikki Haley appears to be accepting that she's not going to win her home state. Talk to us about what's the message that she's sending and what does she gain by staying in the race?
Yeah, Lily, I think the campaign would tell you that the idea here is to pick up momentum past South Carolina, which is why the former governor is looking to Super Tuesday as the next big milestone instead of to this weekend where, of course, we know the primary is happening here in South Carolina. What's interesting, though, she was pretty defiant in her event that she held earlier today in Greenfield, telling voters that she's staying in this race. Take a listen to what she had to say.
I refuse to quit. South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, this as the former governor is slipping in polls. CBS News polls have her at about 35 points down from Donald Trump. But she's saying, listen, she's raising significant amounts of money to stay in this race. And she's telling donors that she is the credible alternative to Donald Trump for the Republican Party, which is why she was able to raise about $17 million in January.
Wow. I mean, her fundraising has been remarkable. She says, look, I've always been the underdog and still I win. But there seems to be so much enthusiasm that despite having been the governor of the state, despite that being her home state, and having had pretty favorable ratings in the past, the Trump campaign is seeing so much enthusiasm. How would you describe that? What is it sounding like from Trump voters where you are?
Well, there's definitely a different vibe when you go to a Trump event versus a Nikki Haley event. Many of Haley's supporters are reluctant Republicans when it comes to the current presumed leader of the party, that's Donald Trump. Many of them do not want the party to move forward in his image. So it's more of a protest vote of Donald Trump rather than Nikki Haley. But when you go to a Trump event, many of those supporters haven't considered any other candidate in this race, despite how wide it was to how narrow it is now. They've always been on the Trump train. Many of them voted for him twice before and are adamantly staying with him this cycle.
And are you, I mean, this is something that we've talked about so many times about, the campaigning in the courtroom. What impact have you observed or heard the cases against Trump have had on voters there?
Very little, honestly. Many of them are almost echoing or parroting some of his campaign stump speeches, saying that a lot of his litigation is political persecution, and they don't believe any of the charges against him. They also aren't concerned that, especially as these cases mount, a lot of them have not gone his way so far. They're unconcerned that that could change the standing of this race. They think even if he is convicted of a crime, he'll still be in this race, which doesn't necessarily bode well for Nikki Haley, who's making the case that that chaos, as she describes it, will ultimately leave the Republican Party high and dry by November.
We've heard her be a little bit more aggressive when addressing Trump. Before, she was shyer. Why has Nikki Haley not gained more support there in her home state? How is her messaging around former President Trump landing there?
Well, what's interesting, despite being from South Carolina, despite, doing fairly well, according to many of these voters, a lot of Trump supporters look at this race as a national one, right? Not necessarily a statewide race. So she's often touted that she's won both statewide races that she's ran in South Carolina. But that doesn't matter this time around because a lot of folks are considering this a test for the general election. They want to put their backing behind Donald Trump as their Republican nominee and show a force of strength against the Democratic Party, where we know Joe Biden is likely to get the nomination.
All right, Taurean Small, thank you so much.